Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Going to be doing some modelling tonight, but before I get into that, as you can see on the screen, I sent out 3,150 emails today to anyone who backed us on Kickstarter at levels Captain or above, and you would have received a shiny new Steam key. And yes, don't bother typing in the one on the screen because that's already been redeemed. A big echo, you say? There's not a lot I can do about that, actually. Maybe if I nail my rug to the wall behind me, but okay, good. Right, yeah, make sure I've only got it open once. One of me is enough. So yeah, so anyone that backed on Kickstarter should have the key in an email. Please do check your spam folders because a lot of them have been going directly to spam folders. Not sure why, that's probably because I'm using MailChimp. Yeah, and anyone who has either backed after Kickstarter on Ko-fi or before Kickstarter on the likes of Patreon or Ko-fi, we'll likely be sending out your keys manually, one at a time, because we don't have your emails in a nice tidy list like we do from Kickstarter. But yeah, you will be getting a key as soon as possible, and I expect Claire will probably be going through those whilst we're on stream. So expect to either receive a message on Ko-fi or Patreon or on Discord, depending on where she ends up messaging you. So the dev build, which is on the demo as a beta branch, that was a temporary measure that I set up to just give people access before we had the keys sorted with Steam. But now that we've got the keys and we've sent them out, we'll be deleting that dev branch from the demo. I won't delete it immediately. I'll wait until everyone's actually got their keys, and then that will be going away. Inbox 5645. Thank you for the 20, I think that's Belarusian. Is that the Belarusian currency? Not quite sure. I think it might be. But thank you. Dan and Claire, this is for your coffee. Thank you very much. Yes, Dauntless, this is my key, which I've already redeemed, so it doesn't matter that it's on stream. So yes, look out for this email, and please do go ahead and check your spam folders, because that's probably where it ended up. Right then, what was I doing? So, since the last stream, can't remember how far I got on the last stream, but I've re-measured these wall pieces here, so they extend smoothly across, and they also line up with these. So that line kind of goes all the way through there to line up with this one, because I'm keen on symmetry. And then this is just should be halfway between the two. Yes, that's that one. And this one is the halfway point, yeah. So this cross section here lines up directly with the center of that circle there, which is also lining up directly with the middle of this panel. On this side, these are the VIP quarters, in case anyone didn't realize, and they're going to have planters at the front of them, so you're going to have nice little flower beds either side of the door, and that just continues all the way around. There's 6 VIP quarters in total. And then on this side, I've just continued that curve around behind the main stairwell. And it does create a bit of a needless cavity behind there, this wide, but that just works better than having it as an awkward space. And obviously the planters are on this side too. So B deck in general is going to be quite filled with foliage. Commander Delta, thank you for the $20 US. Yes, that's pretty much where we're going with that. And yes, obviously we've now added insulation material all the way around. And there was a question in Discord actually about what type of insulation this is. So it's the typical multi-layered insulation you'd find on any spacecraft, even in 2024. So it's there to protect the crew from solar radiation and anything else that comes flying into the ship from the outside. So every wall cavity is filled with insulation, and every ceiling space as well. And when I do this properly with a better texture, because I'm not particularly happy with this texture, I think it would look nicer if it was like a honeycomb or triangles or something slightly more sci-fi looking. But the idea is that this is filled with a futuristic substance which, when exposed to vacuum, expands and hardens. So take the ceiling ones, for example. If there's a punctured hull up the top here, then if that sort of blister of material is popped, then as soon as that's exposed to vacuum, it's going to rapidly expand and harden, thus naturally filling the hole that was just formed in the hull. Obviously that can only happen once per blister. Kind of like bubble wrap. Once you've popped it, it's popped. And then obviously the infrastructure, all the pipes and cables will be running in front of this material. And I'll cut some holes here for routing infrastructure through. Okay, so there's a couple of things I need to do to finish this bit off. I need to continue this world line around properly. I need to put in the floor support just around this side. It goes all the way around there. And just need to sort out what I'm doing with this space here for the security desk. And then I can continue this down and then start working through C deck. Most of which will hopefully be a copy paste. We shall see. Yes, spacewalking outside of the ship will definitely be a thing. Technically, it's already a thing if you can glitch through a window. Yeah, the F1 bug ticket function in the dev build isn't going to work until we get into the bug fixing phase. So the way we're going to be doing this is, whilst we're actively working on the dev build, we won't have bug ticket submission enabled because we're still pulling things apart and working on things. And it's not really very helpful to raise bugs at that point because bugs get raised for things that we're actively working on. So, of course it's broken. We haven't finished making it yet. When we transition to that kind of pre-release bug fixing phase, then we'll enable bug tickets, because that's when we're doing our QA and polishing things ready for going live. And for about a week before every live build, I always try and clear off as many bug tickets as I can. So that's the best time to raise them. Yep. I will be upgrading to 5.4 as soon as I've had a proper play with it. We've got, I think, 3 plugins that need to be updated, because we've got our Mantis integration for the bug tickets. That takes a while to update. We've got, I think it's the 6DOF plugin we're using for the actual ship flight mechanics. There's a couple of plugins that need to update, and then we can go live with 5.4. Right, so I've already made floor support for that one, so I need to actually chop this one in half. Already be a component, yeah. So if I copy that one and then I mirror that, and I can just stick it on that side and do half the work. Probably would have been easier to make this end piece again from scratch, but I've started now, so I'll carry on. Saying that, you know what, it will be quicker just to make it again. Save all the messing about. That one and that one. These ones should be exactly the same distance apart. Okay, so all we need to do is find our midpoint. Make myself a little marker so I know where I am. So we want to draw a line from there. Sephiroth, yeah, the current nav console as it stands obviously needs more work done to it, and that is on my to-do list. In fact, that needs to be finished before the demo build can go out, so it's definitely going to get worked on soon. Distance right on this one should be 1 to 1.75 or near enough. Yeah, there we go. then the worlds aren't going to overlap. Okay, same on this side. Okay, that's better. Snootu, you ask an interesting question, and it's one that we've debated a fair bit, both on Discord and elsewhere. So, the concept of causality breaking FTL is based on the premise that the ship suffers relativistic effects from going faster than the speed of light. But it's a flawed premise, because using something like an Alcubierre drive, the ship is not itself its frame of reference, is not moving relativistically. So you're not actually experiencing those same relativistic effects. You are expanding and contracting space, so that space itself, space-time, is technically moving faster than the speed of light, which it can do, because it's not limited to the speed of light. Therefore, and the thought experiment I used with this was that if person A on Earth sends a message to person B on Alpha Centauri, then even if you're able to move around instantly, so forget FTL, just think about instant travel, even at those speeds, you still cannot intercept, or rather you cannot stop person A from sending the message before they send it. So even if you travelled from person B to person A instantaneously, the best you can hope for is to arrive exactly as the message is being sent. So there's no physical way of stopping that message. And therefore, no, you can't break the laws of physics. It is not a paradox. Now, if the ship was physically moving at the speed of light within the reference frame of the rest of the universe, then yes, you could break causality doing that. Yeah, and FTL comms, we're going to handle that by way of micro wormholes. So there'll be a box on the ship and a box on Earth, and they're set up with quantum entanglement for targeting purposes, whereby you can create a micro wormhole between those two devices for essentially instantaneous phone calls. But again, that does not break causality, because you're not traveling faster than the speed of light within the reference frame of the universe. Yeah, the issue with quantum entanglement is that it's the same principle as if you had, let's say you had two boxes and you put coin A heads up in one box and coin B heads down in the other box, seal both boxes and you don't know which is in which box. If you go and take that other box and put it on the moon, then someone on the box on Earth, simply by looking in that box and seeing which way up the coin is, they instantly know which way up the coin on the moon is, which is an instantaneous information flow. But that's how quantum entanglement works as well. So you're not changing the coin on the moon, you're simply, by deduction, you know what the coin is. The only difference with quantum entanglement is that both coins are in a state of quantum uncertainty until you have looked at one of them, and then again through deduction you know that the other one is obviously the opposite state to the one you just looked at. But it's the same principle. You're not affecting the other coin, you're deducing its value. The problem is, once you've collapsed the quantum state, you can no longer set it up again. So you can't. That entanglement is broken the moment the quantum state has been realized. Clover, yeah, that's where the point of debate is. Because the argument is, because space itself and distant galaxies are moving away from us at faster than the speed of light, that is a real-world observable proof that the Alcubierre drive can function as advertised. Space is expanding faster than the speed of light, so distant galaxies are moving away from us at faster than the speed of light. So that's how, the Alcubierre metric works. Pleased to hear it, Sarah. Glad you got your key. again, a reminder to everybody, please do check your spam boxes because a lot of keys ended up going there. Thank you, Dave. Another £5 sterling towards the shed fund. Commander Delta, I think you may have backed us outside of Kickstarter. I can't remember now. If you did, then Claire will be sending out your key manually. Yeah, if it was PayPal, then Claire will be doing you manually. She's working her way through the list as we speak. Oops, I picked the wrong thing to line that up with then. Oh, I see. That's a bigger one. That'll be why. Commander Delta, thank you for the $10 US. Yes, Claire is working her fingers to the bone as we speak. I think she's got something like 380 people to do manually. Yeah, I took the easy job and did the 3,000 odd using MailChimp, leaving her to do the hard job. She doesn't mind though. She likes having something to do. Yeah, I waited specifically till she was asleep to do it, and she couldn't moan at me then. Tactics. Generally speaking, I've noticed that my performance is ever so slightly quicker on Vulcan. Not by much though. We're talking maybe 5 frames a second difference. It's negligible. I'm using an NVIDIA 2080 Ti for reference. Autosave ruining the day again. Yeah, I would definitely consider Vulcan to be the backup option. Generally speaking, DirectX 12 is more reliable, at least in StarSim. Hang on a minute, why is that all the way over there? Did I mess something up? checking that these are in the right place. So yeah, that lines up. So these are all lining up where they should be. That's all good. So that should be directly in the middle there, which it is. Okay. Lost in the geometry. So that's correct. That's correct. Which means this one's going at a funny angle. What the hell? It's probably because I rotated it. So if I just grab that, and line it up with that. No, that looks pants. Screeny30, you're welcome. We've had so many people have like mini heart attacks when they found Steve for the first time. Has definitely become a rite of passage, yeah. Right, so this side's in the right place. I think what I've done is because I mirrored that object, I've inadvertently bent it out of shape. So all I should have to do, technically, which I do on this side actually, if I copy you from there to there, yeah, there we go. That's more like it. Copy that one around 90 degrees. Should solve that one. Right, there we go. Problem fixed. Merch, yes, we've been talking about merch. I think the first thing we'll make, well, actually no, technically the first thing we make is the pen that's on my desk. So we do actually have some merch pens and some merch mugs already, but we only made like 10 of them just as a test. So yes, we definitely will be doing that, as well as the Admiral Cluck Norris chicken plushie, the physical version of it. We'll have to put that on a store as well. Yeah, I use my Starsim pen all the time. The Admiral's yacht has not been designed yet, but that will be happening as soon as we get a concept artist on board. That'll be one of their first jobs. Yes, Smith Brown. When everything's all set up, the lifts are working, and we don't need the debug teleports anymore, then we will be removing Alt 1 through 7. What will be staying, though, is the emergency teleport. And we'll probably move that to the shuttle bay once the shuttle bay is fixed. So if you fall off the ship or you get stuck in something, then you'll be able to use the emergency teleport to respawn in the shuttle bay. Or maybe sickbay. Probably makes more sense to use sickbay, doesn't it? Why are we missing half of that weld line? Let's see what this looks like in engine. So this would be Ring 1 framework. C deck. That one. So that's essentially the roof of C deck, which forms the floor of B deck. Quite simply, Alex, I don't. So I don't do anything related to UVs or normals or anything like that in SketchUp. I do it all in Unreal. So you can see here that the normal direction is messed up on this, and it's looking a lot more rounded than it should do. Because SketchUp, well, quite frankly, does terrible normals. So all we need to do is we can just fix that in here, like that. Done. And now you can see that we don't have that rounded top anymore. It's properly flat. Although it is doing that horrible I Alt tab for too long flickering thing that it does sometimes. 1 sec. Should we start the engine? Blah 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 blah, yes. Yes. Which one are we? That one. Yeah, so for the most part, with all the world geometry, most of it's just world aligned. Because rather than having what could be rather weighty, either 4K or 8K textures, if we just do tiling textures, then it means we can keep the textures themselves much lower resolution and still maintain that high resolution look. Ah yes, behold the blast from the past. Yeah, that was something I was messing about with. I was basically exploring the PCG tools, literally back when 5.1 came out. And at some point, I probably will finish this and have a fully procedural back rooms, infinitely procedural back rooms that you can just explore forever and never find your way out of. Sorry, that's my Discord going ding ding ding. Let me just silence that. You can blame Commander Burr for that, for going ding on my stream. Yeah, the Orville's not still on 427. They've upgraded to 5.3, I think. I think they're on 5.3 now. Obviously, I've not worked with those guys for quite a while. Why is this being weird? R.shadow. No. SSR.quality 2. That's better. So actually, on that note, by default, SSR is set to quality 2, which looks as you'd expect it to look in the game right now, including this. However, if you set it to 3, or even 4, you get much nicer metallic reflections. And I'll be setting that up at some point in one of the next builds, so you can have those better reflections. And I also think the post-process needs to be set up with that as well. Yeah, it is 100, so yeah, it just gives you better metallics generally. You can probably see it a bit better here. So that's the default reflections. Looks a bit plasticky, and that's quality level 4, which gives you just more metallics. Can get a bit grainy at times, but yeah, generally it looks nicer. I'm not sure what the performance impact of that's going to be on lower end systems, but I'll have it as an option in the settings. Yeah, the reactor itself is very much not finished. Well, it's also too short now. So generally speaking, the way it works will stay the same. These things here are neutral beam injectors, and they're what in part spin onto the confinement chamber. And these need to be player maintainable. So these will probably be extended outwards over here somewhere, so that you can actually access them, replace components and things. I think it does need more in the way of support structure, and obviously these all need to be routed in properly as well. But yeah, so there's a lot more really that needs doing to this. But it'll do for now. Yeah, I think the neutral beam injectors definitely do need supporting separately from the reactor body itself, rather than just hanging off of the reactor. Yes, the reactor room will have a lift. Actually, if I go back down there. So opposite the reactor, you've got this room here. So this room's going to be the reactor control room. And in the center, you'll have a big holo display, the same as the one on the bridge. So you'll be able to see all of the reactor systems, all of the electrical systems, and even the plumbing in 3D as a hologram, which should be quite cool. But if you think about how the engineering control rooms work on a naval vessel, things like the main switchboard, which would essentially be this, would be located in the control room. So I think what we'll do once that's built is we will take the likes of these panels here across the back, and potentially even this one here, and move all that functionality into the control room. So all of the general setup and routing of power will take place in the control room, which means only the lower level routing of things takes place inside the reactor room itself. Because if you think about it logically, generally speaking, you wouldn't stand in front of a fusion reactor pressing the buttons. It would be, in a control room. So at least, as long as you can see it out the window, so you can see that things are happening. That's all that's needed. But we will play and experiment with that. Once we start building out the control room, we'll work out what it actually needs functionality-wise. Yeah, because we want to base what we're doing on real-world naval vessels. We're not basing it on a Star Trek engineering space. We're basing it on real-world naval aircraft carriers and megaships and things. But yeah, that's the plan for that. Ben, what am I most proud of so far? Ooh, that's a difficult one. I don't know really. I think probably the Galaxy. Managing to get Unreal to have a 1-to-1 scale Galaxy was a lot of math and a lot of work. So yeah, probably that, I would say. And I guess, doubled up with the fact you can walk around the ship whilst it's flying through it. I mean, those are two big deals for me. Right, so where were we? So weld line is fixed. Supports are fixed. That's sticking up from down below. That needs fixing. That'll do for now. This one needs end piece, so I just export that one again. Yeah, the way I handled it in UE4 was very different to the way I'm handling it in UE5. And it's fair to say that what I'm doing now would not have been possible in UE4 by a long way. And that's all thanks to the large world coordinates. So ring 1, framework, C deck, rear sheet. That's that one. But yeah, and I've just remembered why I was even talking about that. So once these are no longer here, and then this is no longer here, it actually might be really cool if we had this entire circular base movable. So the whole middle can slide up and down. So if we were to turn these posts into a rail or a track, then you could literally have this whole thing rising up and down all the way to the top to be able to access all of the reactor's hardware at any point, even to the point where you could swap out individual magnetic coils. So if we build the reactor and the floor in such a way that it all fits together like a jigsaw, then yeah, I think that would be really cool. Just imagine this whole base plate just lifting up and down all the time. I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I don't think it would limit access to floors. I mean, you'll still have the stairs once I fix them. Not quite sure what we'd put across the back here. Maybe those can stay. Because my original idea is I'd have a lift going at the back of the room. So rather than having the floor moving, this would be a lift that goes up and down. But having the centerpiece move up and down so you can access the reactor components, I think would just be A, cooler, and B, easier to get to stuff. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, have a giant MSD across the back here. I like that idea. Yeah, once we have the character system rewritten, and there's a lot of work that needs doing there. Is that all of those? Yeah, so we need to have the character system support movement in a zero gravity environment. Once that's done and working nicely, at that point we can then have gravity be something that you can turn off, and indeed have the amount of gravity different per deck. So with the way that we're generating gravity as a field, A deck should technically have less gravity than G deck. So it would be nice to model that in. Okay, so there shouldn't be any gaps in the floor. They should all join together nicely. The weld line should be consistent all the way through. Perfect. And the next thing there really is to start putting floor panels down. I did start doing one here, which I might continue doing actually. The ship will have a self-destruct, and the self-destruct will work like it does in the Aliens movie. So if you can picture the scene with Ripley enabling the self-destruct and pushing all the cylinders down and everything, I want something really tactile and interactive rather than just pressing a button. And it needs to feel as urgent and as terrifying as it does in Aliens. And we'll handle that by way of mixing multiple fluids together to form an explosive. The reactor itself can't explode because it's a fusion reactor, and generally speaking, they don't explode, they just stop working. Inbox 5645, thank you for the Belarusian rubles. When do you plan to work on the shuttle bay? Well, the shuttle bay is actually going to be built framework-wise quite quickly. Right now, what I've been doing here is just finalising and confirming how things are all joining together and what techniques are being used for each bit of the ship. Now that that's done, rolling it out to the whole rest of the ship should be relatively straightforward. So C deck's next, and then after that we're down to D deck, and already we'll be working on the roof of the shuttle bay at that point. So yeah, quite soon. It won't have an interior yet, and it will just have temporary lighting, but the actual framework itself, so the shuttle bay will be done to the point where it looks like this. So you'll have the bare metal framework and some lights. The actual interior paneling and niceties will come later down the line. Yeah, the self-destruct will probably be like the one in Aliens, where they start it off with a 10-minute timer, and the ship's computer says something like, the ability to stop the self-destruct expires at 5 minutes. And then once you pass that 5-minute point, you can no longer stop the self-destruct. It's going to happen regardless. But then in their case, they were doing it by turning off the coolant, I think, for the reactor. So really, ours could stop at any point. The last live dev build was last night, where I updated to 225.0.9, but there will be another dev build on Friday. Yes, Alex, the shuttle bay will have doors. Oh, sorry, Jack. Dev update. The demo update will go out once the dev build's polished. So once this framework work is done, and more importantly, I fix these lights, and the sensors console is working and polished. Because there's still a fair bit of work to do on the sensors yet. So I still think we're looking at weeks. But yeah, keep an eye on the streams and you'll see it come together. But literally, as soon as this is done and polished, it'll go out on the demo. The dev build is accessible for our Captain tier backers. The world lines are literally just geometry, so it's geometry with a texture on it. The VR is something I'll be working on once this dev build's polished. So when we put out the next demo update, the idea is that I'm going to do a VR test build at the same time. So once all this work is done, then the next thing I'll be doing is just doing a quick VR test build. The main difference between the dev build and the demo build right now is, one, the sensors has been completely overhauled, along with some of the holo display stuff. In fact, why don't I show you? It'd be easier. So this, obviously, this is all different because it's all being remodeled. There's a honking great ring round the ship, which is not there in the demo. Let's just fire it up real quick and I shall show you what's changed. This picture needs to go away. It's very old now. So all the lighting has been changed, which is why we've got some issues like that right now. But every single light on the ship now has a much improved ceiling uplighter. So in addition to the light that's cast down to the ground, it lights the ceiling far more effectively than it did before, in a far more performant way. Generally speaking, that has improved performance across the board. So that's one of the big changes. The other, I would say the biggest change, is that the sensors console is completely overhauled now. Turn off some of these stats a minute. So, yeah, as you can see, completely different sensors console. The modes, well, the first three modes are generally the same. Except we now have temperature display for the in-system view. So if we zoom out there, you can see the temperature regions. And you also have a much more granular zoom ability. So you can now zoom in and out of star systems smoothly, which you couldn't do before. So rather than just setting a predefined range. You can just hold the button down to zoom in and out, and that also works on the star system view as well. So if you hold the button down, you can zoom out to every star in the range, all the way out to 150 light years, whereas before it was capped at 50 light years. So you can now zoom out way further than you could before. You might notice here that also the display range is different depending on the star class. So like the M class stars only really draw within the first 50 light years, and then you can only get like the big stars further out. The GPS mode is completely different. You can now use it to see at a glance what's in any given sector. So right now we're focused on the ship, which is why it says here, ship. And that's where the sensors are pointing there. And this tells you what's in the current sector. So use that so it stops moving the camera around. So this is just telling you about the sector that we're in. So if we go forwards on the Y axis, you can see that's barely moved, but this is now a different sector. If we go towards the galactic plane a bit, oh, it's what am I doing? Didn't want to do Z. That one. So if we move that outwards, we should eventually move out of the spiral arm region. Go. Oh. Yeah, I'm forgetting how to use my own sensors here. So of course you need to switch to that mode. So that's focusing on the ship, and that's using your manual location. So there you go, that's better. So as I click that, you can see that we're moving through the galaxy. And if you have a look up here, it's actually updating the region that you're in, so you can see. Showing spiral arm. I know that there's roughly in a straight line from here, there's an open cluster. It's back into the interarm. But as you can see, as I'm changing the galactic X, the sector population here is changing. So you know there's a black hole there. You know there's 26 A classes. There is somewhere around here, there is an open cluster which I'm not seeing. Yeah, but that's a needle in a haystack anyway. So generally it's a complete overhaul of how the sensors work. And what I need to do now is I need to tie the manual location on the GPS to the long range so we have the same manual location. So if you're interested in this sector because you've seen something here you like the look of, then when you go to the long range, that same location is set to here, and then what you see on the sensors is driven by the manual location and not where the ship is. So this will change depending on your manual location. Which means if you were to put in, say, literally 000, in fact, why don't we do that? So if we go into here and we clear that, and clear that, we've set the location to the middle, so you can see it now says galactic core. And there are two black holes here because one of them is Sag A. But now on here, this would also be showing Sag A and that sector. So it enables you to scan ahead to any location in the entire galaxy and then plot a course directly. So you're no longer limited to plotting courses to what's immediately around the ship, which is quite a big difference. No, the filters don't work yet. That needs changing, obviously. Yeah, you will be able to just select a filter from a drop down. Once because something I want to do, I want to put a physical keyboard here so that you interact with the keyboard rather than the numpad on the screen, and in which case I can then use that screen space to have multiple select filters, so you can filter more than one object at a time. Yeah, the O-class stars only exist in the open clusters, which now that we can see up to 150 light years, you can see that there are actually a couple there. Which you can't see on here yet because it's not drawing the target filter yet. But, that will be coming. And then obviously this stuff, the stuff down here, which is still work in progress. Now, someone mentioned there was an invisible wall around here somewhere, so I'm just going to check and see whether I'm bumping into anything. Feels okay. I think we're good. Gaminkin, thank you for the £5. Can go towards the shed fund. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, of course. The ring. So the ship now has a ring around it. Which is huge. And it will have engine pods at the back as well, which you can't see yet. Yeah, the ability to look up locations like Betelgeuse and known stars, that will be coming as well. Before I can do that, be gone. I need to add the ability to translate these procedural star names to their actual coordinates. So we need to derive a name from the coordinates and be able to have that work in reverse, so the name can also be worked out the other way into a coordinate. So an algorithm needs to be put together for that. Once that's done, then we'll be able to search for any star in the galaxy. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. There's now lighting controls in various locations around A and B deck. Chris, forward. Yeah, something that people have asked to do is whether or not they can increase their pledge at a later date. And generally speaking, the answer is yes, because we do have, we do track the money that's been pledged on Kickstarter, and we've got that data available to us. So if someone wanted to bump that up to the next tier, then all they would need to do is just send us the difference on Patreon or something. On PayPal, rather. But the top tiers, obviously we've got what is 12 in total custom ships to build, 13 if you include the Admiral's yacht, in addition to 10 or 11 random vehicles. So there's quite a large workload ahead of us for that. So we're not going to be taking on any more custom ships until those ones are finished. So once they're all finished and they're all polished and they've all been released, then we'll be doing additional custom ships one at a time. So we'll probably have something where we open it up for commissions, we take a single commission, and then once that one's done, we'll then take on another one. Then we're not being overrun with custom ships then. so just need to remind myself how far out that needed to be. So if that's 65, then that also needs to be 65, which means this needs to be there. Right, so that's that corridor piece. So something I'm going to do differently at the moment in the game, if we find a bit of floor. So whether or not you're choosing wood or acrylic or anything else for the floor material, it's the same physical geometry. So it's this flat surface with a rounded edge, which is fine, and maybe that works for the wood, but I'd rather it be a little bit more custom than that. So if you choose rubber floors, then it's a different physical floor than just having carpet. So on that note, the idea is that each floor piece needs to cater for all of the different options. Now, I don't want to split it up too much so that we've got multiple pieces per floor panel, although that's potentially not the end of the world. So the way the floor pieces are designed is you'll have a basic rubber mat underneath, just to handle the connection point with the metal so it's not noisy. And then on top of that rubber sheet, you've got the actual carpet or or wood or rubber or whatever else you're using. So as long as we keep the same overall shape and a consistent curve there, for example, then we can change the design physically of the material used. Yeah, if you drop Claire a message on Discord with regards to future tier adjustments, then we can put something together for that. I think I went with 30 for the chords here, so let's just stick that in. Right. Oni Noni, you'll need a new key. So the dev build is an entirely new package on Steam. And the reason it has to be an entirely new package is because with Steam's back end, if you have a key for the base game, Steam doesn't allow you to play the demo. So if that game has a demo, you can't play that demo if you have a key for the base game, or if you've bought the base game. I don't know why they have that policy, but that is their policy. So in order to circumvent that, we've had to release an entirely separate package, which we then have keys for. And because that's a separate package to the demo, they can run concurrently. So you can switch between the demo or the dev build at will without having to do any messing around. Yes, the old dev build is going to be, well, it won't be deleted, it just won't be updated anymore, and we'll revoke the old dev build keys to enable people to play on the demo at the same time. So anyone that's backed on Kickstarter at captain level or above will have already received their key via email. And again, please do check your spam boxes because it's probably gone in there. If you backed before Kickstarter, Claire is sending you out keys manually, either on Patreon or Ko-fi or Discord, depending on where she finds you to message you. If you've backed the game at captain level or above after Kickstarter, then the same will apply. Claire will be finding you and messaging you individually. Yes, if you have a look on Ko-fi, then you'll find some links on there for anyone that missed the Kickstarter, where you can still back at captain level. We have removed the top tiers from that because they're closed now. But the captain and Commodore tiers are both still on there. Yeah, it's like Pokemon, you gotta catch them all. Right now I'm just working on doing the floor tiles, because if we've got 4 material choices, say, so we've got the carpet, the wood, the poured acrylic, and if we add the engineering rubber as a 4th style, so that's 4 styles in 2 pieces, so inner and outer, which gives us a total of, I believe, 16 possible variations, depending on what you have in the middle and what you have on the outside. Which means I would have to make the same mesh 16 separate times, catering for every possible combination. But it's probably easier if I combine the 3 pieces. So they've got the underlay, and then the 2 bits on the surface. If I combine those as 3 separate meshes, and then we can use the blueprint to determine which one to pick. Yes, right now they are just materials, but I want them to not be. So when you change from carpet to wood, then that wood, I don't want that to just be retextured carpet. I want it to actually be wood. And the same if you select rubber. So obviously the rubber matting has like edging and things on it. Yeah, the underlay itself should never change. So what I'll do is I'll attach the bolts and things, because obviously it needs to be attached through here. So the attachment bolts will stick up from the rubber underlay, and then we'll have some interchangeable top pieces for the different looks. Which does mean that every floor can have 16 possible combinations. Plus colours, which takes it virtually infinite. So making this one carpet, for example, I think I went with a 1 centimeter offset on that. Doesn't need that many segments. Zeproth. Yes, it's slightly different with Unreal, because obviously this needs to be something that's selectable from the in-game tool. So all we need to do is make the variations first, and then build the blueprint to be able to select those variations. Eventually it will be per deck, so I want to be able to have per deck colors and per deck material choices. Because it would be nice if say the habitation decks had a different look and feel to engineering and the science decks. The ship customization tool is probably going to get quite complicated. So the materials will be defined by the mesh. So this one's the carpet because it's got rounded edges, nice and simple. So this mesh in the game will have a material, as will this mesh in the game. When I do like the wood version of this or the acrylic version of this, that will have a separate material within the game, and then each one of those materials will have an attributes file associated with it for things like color. And different materials can have different attributes as well. So we can have it so, like the wood, for example, we can have not just color, but we can also have like glossiness. So how polished is it? Obviously that makes no sense for carpet, but if carpet has a different mesh, it doesn't matter, because then all you need is the color. In fact, now that I think of it, like if we use nanite tessellation for things like carpets, then you'll even be able to control things like how fluffy they are. It's like with these. Something we can do with our magic control is we can change how tessellated those meshes are. So if that was carpet pile, then we could obviously make carpets more or less fluffy as desired. So you could have really nice fluffy carpets, or sort of hard wearing, more practical ones. Yeah, we need giant fluffy carpets all over the ship, and everyone's walking around barefoot. Yeah, to keep it simple in terms of damage, because these three meshes will combine to make a floor tile. That floor tile as a whole will have a damage value associated with it. Not only damage, but also dirt. So you can do dirt and you can do damage. And that will apply to whatever material you have selected. So, say you've got 50% damage, then that 50% damage will be rendered differently on wood than it would be on carpet. forget now which base materials I was using just to represent carpet bits, but if we do that, did I put it on here? Oh, I did. There we go. Right, so that's inner and outer. And then these three need to be added to a group. Which itself needs to be added to a group. So if we group those together, that can go away. Then make that one a component. There's a specific way around you have to do this to make sure that you can export it with the world origin being the transform like over here. Also on that note, so if I move that out of the way a minute, you get up there. So we need our attachment point as well. If we pick the midpoint on here, and obviously the midpoint across here, and then the top of this. Right, so that's our attachment point. Which means for this mesh here, bring that one back down. It's going to be a little bit fiddly. So that's where it should be. So all I need to do then, I should probably draw some axis points first. Just do that. That. Right, if I now change the axes on this mesh, that. So the origin point for that mesh is now there. I need to do the same with this one as well. Right, now because this component is contained within this group and the origin point of that group is set to the point underneath, if I then export that piece of carpet, it should retain that as its world origin. And that becomes important at a later date. Right, so that's I'll stick it here for now. Ring one. Straight end. Right, let's give this a whirl a minute. Need to start organizing these a little bit more. That one, that one, that one. So it's ring one, floor, straight end, open that. Right, so that's our mesh. And if we did that right, then the origin point should be right in the middle. It is. Okay, and the reason that's important is so that when you drag it into the world, you can see that our origin point is now right underneath in the middle where we need it to be. Otherwise, the origin point, as per these meshes, would be up there at the world origin, which we don't want. But that's only half the battle, because the other thing we need to do is we need to set up a socket on this mesh. So on here, we need a socket for the floor. So we need to go down here. Oh, it's a new tab now, I forgot that. Right, so we need floor 0, and then we need to tell it where it is, and then we can get that information from SketchUp. Stick that up there about 200. Oops, no, I didn't want to do that. That's better. No. Still in the group? Yeah. Outside of the group, we'll move up by 200. Now we need to know where this is in the world. And the easiest way to do that is to just do that. So we know that the socket position is... Let's get rid of some of these tabs. That can go away, that can go away. Right. So the socket is there, there. Okay. And then on the actual floor piece, we also need a socket the same. So we'll call that one floor 0 as well, except this one can stay as zeros because it's the origin point. So with all that having been done, this mesh should now clip to this mesh smoothly. Which it probably isn't going to do because that needs to be facing the other way. Should now clip. Come on, you can do it. Floor 0, yeah, fine. Ah, probably because there's no collision set up on it. Collisions. Get rid of the existing ones and add a simple box. You can use Alt-A to attach. Can you? No. It's probably because they're in a different level. Yeah, that can't. We can't do that then because the framework's on a different level to the interior. And on that note, this one's on the wrong level anyway. So this would be deck interior walls. Move that to that level. Oh, see, now it works. See, that's snapping into place now, which is what I want it to do, but it's snapping into place the wrong way around. So perhaps that was right the first time then. Oh yeah. I don't know why it didn't do it the first time, but there we go. So in order to accomplish this, I'm using this snapping tool plugin. It's really, really good. It is... it's this. So modular snap system, the way that works, and it's a godsend when you're building levels, is as long as each socket has the right prefix. So floor 0, that can be any number, it just needs to be the right prefix. And the red arrow needs to be facing the red arrow on the mesh you're connecting it to. So the red arrow is facing that way on that mesh, and that way on that mesh. So it connects red arrow to red arrow. And then yeah, it just kind of snaps the sockets together like that. Which is brilliant, because I've got that set up for all of the wall sockets and things on here. So when I'm laying out wall panels, I can literally just snap them into place. Really, really handy, because positioning meshes in the world manually is an absolute nightmare. Yeah, and they don't need to be on the same levels, which is a big deal. Yeah, they're not actually attached, so these meshes are not attached together in any way. They're still separate meshes. It just handles the positioning of it, that's all. I honestly hate electric nodes. And the reason I hate electric nodes is because it's always overlaying the wires on top of each other. I don't really have a big enough one as an example. Give me a big blueprint. I know a big one. Ooh, lost the ship. Where has the ship gone? So something like this with electric nodes, because I have tried it and it aggravated the hell out of me, is it tends to overlay all the wires on top of one another. Like, whilst yes, it makes them straight, I find it much harder to just read looking at it. Whereas for something like this, you know, I guess I organize the wires and things myself, so I know exactly where they're going and why they're going there. Yeah, I've got a couple of colleagues that love electric nodes, and yeah, not for me, I'm afraid. When you say when is it going to be released, do you mean the full game, the demo? Which bit are you talking about? Oh, totally, it's a preference thing. Absolutely, yeah. For me, I get confused with electric nodes. And I like the organic flow of the default ones. And generally, I'm on a quest to use the fewest amount of plugins possible. It's kind of my goal. Right, so I'm just going to have a... Oh, wrong tab. Excuse the delay while it loads up the massive output log. Right, so we want to go to systems and we want the flooring system. That one. So this is the master blueprint for the floors. It does a few things. It grabs some customization for the floors, and it also handles deck visibility. So these are global events that get fired. This is another fantastic plugin if anyone works with Unreal. TMW Event Handler. Basically, it works like blueprint interfaces, or more accurately, event dispatchers. So it's like an event dispatcher that doesn't need any kind of casting or setup beforehand. You just send out a global event, which in this case is the current deck. And this cast is only literally to the payload, so it doesn't create a reference chain. So as soon as the current deck of the player changes, we send out a global event, and then anything in the game can access that global event just by binding to it. And then we can just act on that information. So whenever the current deck changes for the player, we can decide whether or not this mesh needs to be visible or doing anything. And then we just set out the materials here. So where we are doing this switch here for the different materials used on the floor, we need to add rubber to that list, and we need to start swapping out some meshes on here. That is client side, Sarah, yeah. So this is being managed client side. So on the player character, right now it's being done based on its Z height in the world. So it uses that to determine which deck the player is on. And every time that triggers a deck change, this event is sent out. But it's all client side, so this doesn't happen on the server. Anything optimization and visibility based is basically forced to only happen on the client. We used to have a situation where when the server host went between decks, it was turning off lights and things for other players, which was a nightmare. But we've solved all that now. I'm just wondering why that enum isn't in this folder. I'm assuming it's probably in the customization folder instead. Yeah, it is. Okay. So we need to add another one on here, and we shall call that rubber. That gives us our rubber option on here. Now, I'm not going to build this system yet, because if I do, Claire will kill me because it's not on the roadmap. So I'm going to resist the urge to build that. However, that will be how we do it. In the meantime, I will just add the relevant materials to this. Which is we actually need to take a copy of one of the ones that are used on the ship, Because something I keep needing to think about with this is I need to make all the stuff for the Magellan kind of Magellan specific, and the naming conventions kind of need to start being Magellan specific, because once we start adding additional ships, that's going to get confusing real fast otherwise. Okay, Alex, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Yeah, so you're there. Okay. Alright. Let's just make a copy of these. So we want ring 1 straight. Change the mesh. Ring 1 straight to end, which is that one. And then we'll borrow the materials from this one. So we've got 4 primary, which would be that one, I think. No, that one. So that one should be for secondary. So now we can delete that one, and in its place, making sure we're on the right level, stick that one in instead. There we go. So rather than having just a straight static mesh here, we now have the actual blueprint version of that, and then that can have all the code on it for dealing with the customization and swapping meshes around, handling damage and all that sort of thing, and dirtiness and all that sort. So that should now technically work with the customization already. Yeah, so Magellan is kind of the European way of pronouncing it. Obviously based on the guy Ferdinand. Oh, I can't even say it now. Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan's kind of like the US pronunciation of it. I believe it's originally Portuguese. I also say Z instead of Z, being from the UK. Although I think Canadians say Z as well, don't they? And let's not forget the all-important aluminium. There you go, so if both the UK and Canada say Z, then that outnumbers the US, and therefore the US is wrong. It's official. Yay, why is it not there? Oh, I know why it's not there. This is optimization working as you'd expect it to, but optimization is working too well. So I forgot to tell this piece of floor which decks it's visible from, and that's why it was invisible. So now it will be visible. There we go, now it's there. Right, so if I change the customization, that should magically work. Yay. Right, I'm going to do one more panel, and then I should be calling it a night. Get rid of all that because it's no longer needed. Right, so that's our socket location. And I might just go ahead and stick that in straight away while we're here. So this is the tedious part of building the ship interior, is for all of these we need to set up sockets. Which is fine when it's in a straight line like this, but when you're dealing with curve like this, you then have to work out which angle the socket's facing, which can be a bit of a pain. Right, so we don't need that anymore. So the next thing we need, bring that one back down to where it was. Cheat and steal this face. Yoink. And that needs to go exactly to 50. There we go. So that's our base. Get rid of that thing that's getting in the way. Shall just bring that in half a centimeter. Take that up there by 2. That can go away. That can be made into a group. Then we just need to define the edges. So 64.5. That side, 64.5. Get that into a group, get rid of that, make that into a group, make that a component so that we're only having to do half the work. 2. Get rid of that. sure the normals are facing the right way. Yeah, great. It's one piece. Just copy that over here. Line it up. Again, just give it a default texture, make sure the normals are lined up properly. And then we can round the edges. Okay, and there's our next carpet segment. So obviously that's the first object, and then this, that group on it. So that. Hang on a minute, how many groups do I have here? So you, so you need to go into you. So that group, right, which means that one needs to be a component. So we've got a component inside an object. So that's where we need to go down here, set the axes. Okay, and then go into the component and also set the axes. Right, okay. So we go into the group, then export the object from the group, like so. Then it should retain that origin point. So floor. Floor straight. Just import that there as well. So input floor straight. The materials all set up, so we've got our rubber base and our two carpet layers. Oh, and we need our collisions. Just want to be a box collision, nice and simples. And then we need our floor socket, which can stay at 0. And then finally, need to duplicate this. And then change the mesh to that one. And then finally, pop that into place. Doesn't have the rubber on it, so just fix that. Now, depending on how terrible it looks, having gaps like that, I will either make them smaller or maybe put some kind of trim on it. And then we also need some bolts holding that in. Obviously, the idea behind these are separate flooring panels which are attached in place and bolted down, and they can be replaced and repaired and all that sort of stuff. Let's save all of that. Yeah, of course, I forgot to set up the optimization code. Otherwise it won't be visible. Yeah, so what I'll do is for each of these floor tiles, I'll make a selection of damage meshes. We might even be able to do that procedurally, to be honest. If we can do it procedurally, that means we can have an infinite variation of damage, which would look a lot nicer. Right, so yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I shall leave it there for this stream. It's coming up to 10:30 here, and I haven't eaten anything yet, so I need to go and grab some food. And yes, and we went all the pink on the carpet. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us on stream. The next stream will be on Sunday at 8 PM BST, usual time. And again, just as a reminder, if you have backed the game on Kickstarter at captain level or above, then you will have received an email. And in that email, you will find your key. So please do check your spam folders, because people have been reporting that they've been going into spam folders, which is not great. Okay, I think that was everything. Thanks again, everyone, and bye for now.